a safe space for sure.
Well, now I was at Madonia this weekend.
I'm sitting in the left.
It was
Then we're
8
gonna
o'clock.
find that.
And I left
Really
really
far.
early.
Find your way?
Okay.
I can have it until the second night.
Alex, will you lose the pledge when we get to the minute? No, right over here. I was asking. Get the video.
We had to do
I'm
it.
trying.
We had to do one set.
Right.
So
There you go.
halfway through my wedding.
You ready to go play?
Reception.
Yeah.
My game, that's what.
When I got here, I had dueling bands. Yeah, yeah, so there was never any.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of, yeah.
Yeah, because usually there's a break.
I looked at it.
Yeah.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance being led by Alex Wade.
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, welcome to our first meeting in 3 weeks, our normal first May meeting of 2024 for the Village Board of Trustees in Ballston Spa. A couple things just to denote why I'm dressed the way I am tonight. Congratulations to the Scotties tonight for beating CBA 5-4 and on the 7th. And that is the end of their regular season. So we'll see where they're going to sectionals very soon. Congratulations to them. And also I was sent this to help promote a little bit. This is quarterbacks versus cancer, which is something started by Carter St. John, a quarterback in Alma College in Michigan. And he has gotten normal competitors of his, quarterbacks throughout Division III college football, to band together to raise money to help beat cancer. And, you know, if somebody in the early 20s can think to get that competitive spirit out and get cooperation in those moments, then we can learn a lot from guys like him. So best of luck to Carter and everybody that's participating in QBs versus cancer out there. It's going to be a great cause for them throughout the next year or so. So first things first, let's approve minutes. And let me get my documents over here. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the April 22nd, 2024 meeting being approved? Trustee Fandesa. Second. Trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well, she is.
She's up there.
She's got to turn herself on, basically, at this point. That is the Mary.
That's right, we assumed that's the man.
Anybody else that looks like a Mary up there?
No, everybody else looks like who they're supposed to be. Matilda has joined us, but I don't think that's me.
No, I don't think so either. Mary Price Bush, if that's you, please turn your video on or unmute and let us know. We'll get your vote. Perhaps not. Yes. Well,
Wait, yeah, Google 7 raised their hands. Let's see if Google 7 is married.
Google 7, is that you?
I'm here. Are you there?
Yes. Okay.
Are you there? Okay.
Can you go on screen for us?
I am having difficulties. I've got two computers and my phone, and I'm not connecting for some reason.
Okay, well, in the meantime, we're not going to have any other votes besides minutes for a little bit. So if you want to keep working on that, we will bring you in when you get a chance to, okay?
Okay.
Okay, in the meantime, if you want to mute out, go ahead, because right now we are going to first bring out, we will call it an abstention for now, or not. Yeah, she's not here yet, technically. Yep. So we'll work on that for later. You'll see two presentations. We're going to go with B first here. Alex Wade is here, who is an Eagle Scout who wants to do a project for our village. in Kelly Park, but I'm not gonna steal the show from him more than say that. Alex, you want to come up at this point to the podium and tell us more about your project? Feel free to.
So my name is Alex Wade and I'm a Boy Scout here.
Make sure you turn that on. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, it should be a button right in front there. Yeah, there you go. You're all good.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Wade. I'm a Boy Scout in Troop 2 here in Ballston Spa. And I was looking to do my Eagle Scout project in Kelly Park. And it would involve installing 3 benches in the park. I went out and scouted some locations up there.
I'm gonna try your.
Yeah, so I scouted some locations and all the red dots are possible locations where I could put new benches. And I have 3 where 3 are my favorites. I believe they're this one, that one, and then one in the dog park. And the benches would help benefit the park because people who are visiting the park will be able to sit down and enjoy the scenery and maybe have a snack or something. And one of them that I wanted to put in was here in the dog park. So people who are using the dog park can sit down and watch their pets and everything. And so the benches would be of wood, and I would construct them of wood, and I would build them in my house, and then with a team, I'd bring them out to the park, and then we'd install them one day.
Is Mom okay with building in the house?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. That's an important part right there.
Yeah. And if you could pull up the design up there.
It's the same one, but just change tags on after that.
Well, I thought that too, but it wouldn't come up that way.
Yeah, so I made kind of a preliminary sketch of what the design would look like. This part would be underground. I'd have to dig, and then the bench would be about 18 to 20 inches off the ground. That's kind of the standard for that. So I went in and kind of did a cost analysis for what I expected to get. And it was about $230 for the lumber and screws and everything for the benches. And that money I would raise through friends and family donations. So yeah, as for like tools and stuff, I pretty much have everything I need in my house, so I wouldn't need any rentals or anything like that. So I'm just looking for any feedback and then approval and signature on that, if you guys like that.
Just to let everybody know, Alex has been, let's say, stalwart here in trying to get something done here, because he was attempting to do something in Woods Hollow originally, and due to the transaction that's occurring and some of the confusion about who should be doing what at this point, came back to us and said, look, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting that done. How about Kelly Park? Put him in touch with Caitlin Parwana, who is our chair of our Park and Tree Board. And they've been working well together to get into this part of this phase. And we thank you for, being diligent here and getting it to this point for sure. Anybody else want to?
Well, just also want to thank you on behalf of the village, but also just let everyone know that Caitlin and her board are fully behind this effort and appreciate all your work. So, and they are a good resource for finalizing, what locations to put the bench in.
Yeah.
Talk to her about that. Thanks.
So in a situation like this, so that he can go home and worry about homework and other stuff, if I could ask for somebody to give a motion or make a motion to approve the bench project in Kelly Park. Proof of insurance, to the degree it has not been provided already, will be provided by the Scouts. Trustee Fandesa.
One second.
Trustee Baskin, discussion. Anybody in the audience?
Just had a question, are you doing pressure treated wood?
Yeah.
If you're going underground and something over it, because we've got old benches and wood benches, and they tend to fall apart after a few years.
That was Liz Cormos asking the question, just for the record, because I'm not sure if audio picked you up. But she was asking about pressure treated wood. The answer is yes. Anybody else in here? Seeing no other questions?
I did, just the design you're using is from some standard design you found somewhere.
Yeah, I modeled this design off, or
Hold on,
design that
there
was
you
up
Here it
there.
is.
I modeled it off the ones that were in the Woods Hollow Park. There's a couple of benches, so it's a very similar design to that.
Thank you. We take that off the screen. We'll go back to normal here real quick and go to vote. And all in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll still not be including Mary in that vote, so 4-0 is what I have, and motion's approved. Alex, thank you very much. Thanks, Mom.
And if I could just get a signature on the proposal, because I need that going forward with the,
Are we authorizing the mayor to execute?
I assume that was in your motion. That's what he asked for.
That's
the one on the,
left and right. Yeah.
When do you think you'll start or install them?
I'm looking hopefully very end of May.
They'll be ready at the end of May? Oh, wow. Great.
Thank you for doing this.
You're all official.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Next up on our hit parade here, Jen, if you can look for Nick, and Nick, if you're there and she can't find you, got him? Yeah, why don't you promote him officially? So Nick is, Nick Rapigiani, I believe is the pronunciation, is from USG Water Solutions. They are the winning bidder with respect to the John Street Water Tower. And we have options in front of us in terms of maintenance, how to pay for it in one chunk, or in parts basically. And I asked Nick to kind of join us to walk us through some of what we need to decide here so we can get this project moving ASAP this year. Nick is with us on video now. Nick, thanks for joining us, and thanks for all your time and help along the way. You've been great working with us in the village so far on getting us an understanding of what is going on here and what we need to start thinking about.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Hopefully the audio is working, if you can confirm that.
Indeed.
All right, excellent. So we've been helping the village through the process. As the mayor indicated, we were the low bid, the responding bidder, and we have a slightly unique business model with our company where we offer additional protections and guarantees with a project that normally with tank painting carries a lot of risk associated with it. So my company, USG Water Utility Service Company, is our doing business as company. We take on the risk of doing ongoing maintenance. We've worked with your engineering firm that was involved in this project, Don Rhodes. I don't know if he's on this meeting tonight, but and with your mayor on looking at the options for ongoing maintenance on the tank, which includes things such as DOH, so New York Department of Health. We're doing ongoing inspections and compliance reporting back to your engineering and to you as the village. That's done on a yearly basis or more frequently as needed. And the maintenance program in a nutshell is shifting the risk of any kind of maintenance failure. So when you're spending this kind of money on this rehabilitation project, which is plus of $1 million for the John Street tank, that carries a lot of risk. Typically, these projects have a 1-year warranty, and then going forward from that, you may have some kind of bond. But most failures in these type of large scale coating and painting projects, and we use those two words interchangeably. A lot of people call it painting the tank. These are really multiple parts of coating systems. So if I say coating or painting, it's really the same thing. But in doing that, it's not like throwing a coat of paint on your wall in your home. There's lots of risk associated with it. It's in the environment. It's subject to the environmental conditions. So what we do is we contractually take that risk. It's not a lease back or anything like that. It's just a maintenance contract, but our company is responsible for that risk of workmanship failure of the coatings or the paint, if the manufacturer had a defect, any of the conditions, or if there was a defect in workmanship. And that goes on through the life of the coating system. So there's that shift of risk is the way that we describe that. The other thing that we do is over the life of the asset, the EPA and Department of Health and others ask that there is an asset maintenance or asset management program put on large assets like this. And what that means is ongoing maintenance to reduce the overall cost of ownership and cost of operation of an asset. You might think a tank is just sitting there, but there's a lot of proactive maintenance that can be done on that. And what I will show you for what we presented to the village shows that cost as well as the benefit that you get for that. AWWA, which is the American Water Works Association, says asset management programs and preventative maintenance such as this saves at least a third. So I like to quote the professional body that oversees this type of work. So there's a few different options that has come up through our discussion specifically around this maintenance program and how that would work and kind of the nuts and bolts. And I'll turn it back to Frank to see exactly how he would like me to go through those options, if you'd like me to share my screen or what the best option is for that.
Nick, why don't you go ahead and share your screen because I want everybody to see the one-shot payment versus the multiple part payment and how we can achieve the multiple part payment, and then what the difference is between bonded versus unbonded on the maintenance end of it here. It's going to be tough for folks in the house to see it, but at the same time, folks at home might be able to see it better because they're on right next to their computer screen. But go ahead, Nick.
And are you able to see the share now?
Yeah, we can see the share. Like I said, it's going to be tough for us to see it up close, but I will tell the trustees and anybody that has the attachments, it's the last page of the attachments that it's located in. So if you have that, Sean's getting a smaller version. We did it in landscape for a reason there, Sean.
That's how my printer printed it out.
Yeah, I apologize for the small text, but there's a few different options. Our general maintenance program, we talk about it as providing a perpetual warranty or the insulation from risk. We don't call it insurance because we're not an insurance company, but similar to the way insurance provides a reduction in risk if there's some kind of failure, that's what our maintenance program does. Provides one point of accountability for that, and we're contractually obligated. So if you were looking at that spread of that cost, if you've spent your $1 million in 2024 as we rehabilitate the tank, and then in year 2027, which is the 4th year of the program, something fails, under normal condition, you as the village would be responsible for that. And you might say that seems like a not very likely scenario, but we see an extremely high failure rate of projects, throughout the industry. As far as percentages go, you may be looking at 5, 10, or even higher percentage, depending on where you're located and what type of contractor ends up getting the work. So our maintenance program, the base maintenance program, is that first line, which is the original contract amount. This is what we provided in our response to the bid in February that we were the low respondent to. And you can see the upfront renovation is basically right at $1 million, $1,012,000. The maintenance program then provides for the annual assessment, compliance for DOH, as well as corrective maintenance for anything that goes on, including up into having to do major work if there was some sort of issue, like I mentioned before, the coating system failed, workmanship, materials issues. You are 100% covered through that. The other interesting thing with the maintenance program is we have the maintenance program built into a cycle for the next renovation, which would then occur at year 13 in 2030. Reason being, it provides a budget stable amount, but it also makes what is typically a forgotten asset and an asset that's kicked down the road as far as maintenance goes, part of your capital planning. You can fund it out of capital or maintenance, and I have clients that use either of those mechanisms to fund. But the important thing is the next renovation, the next capital piece, you're not going to have to spend that $1 million again 10 to 15 years from now. It is budgeted in. The reason, and if you add those numbers up from year 2 to year 13, you're going to say, well, Nick, that's nowhere near the $1 million renovation that you're doing up front. And that's true. And there's a few reasons for that. One is we're going to be performing an overcoat maintenance cycle, which you have to do after you do testing on the coating to make sure that it can handle that. And the quality controls we put in place with the work we're going to be doing this year will allow for that. But it's also on our side of it, and I like to explain that our business model is that we have this contract and this work guaranteed for us. We're not a bid, produce the work, and then go chase other work company. we're a partnership type company where we come in and we partner with our client to do these types of contracts for maintenance. And that allows us to spread that risk out. It also allows us to know that that work is there for upcoming years. So we're able to reduce that cost of ownership for our client as well. So you can see that there's no way that in 2030, in terms of those dollars, you'd be able to go and furnish that work at that time. So we like to call that a win-win in business, right? Where we have that work lined up, the village has that protection, and you know that that work's going to be getting done with a stabilized budget. So that top line represents what we normally do. The upfront renovation portion of that is bonded. Your engineer, consulting engineer, and the village required that as part of the bid response. So that piece is bonded. And like I mentioned, this whole maintenance program is risk reduction, but the village kind of went one step further. And through my conversations with the mayor, we wanted to look at the other options out there to provide additional protection. Normally, this isn't part of our normal business model, but the village said, what if in year 11 or 12, you haven't performed this next renovation yet, and you go out of business? How do we know that we're protected? And my initial response to Mayor Rossi was, we've been doing this since 1964. We have a robust list of clients. We're the largest provider of this type of tank maintenance. It's very specialized, but we are the largest in the country. And we have about 1,200 clients that are signed up for a similar type maintenance program. So they are municipal clients, over 99.9% municipal. We do have a few private clients out there, but in order for our business to fail, en masse, those municipalities would have to default, which is an incredibly unlikely scenario. However, talking with Mayor Rossi and your engineer, we wanted to understand what the additional protections would look like. So there's a couple of things going on in these next two scenarios. The next one down is a spread of cost of the capital. Because we are a maintenance contract provider, you can elect and through this approved budget that I have approved internally on my end that I've presented to you all now, this $361,000 is a spread of that year one upfront capital piece, as well as the maintenance for year 2 and 3. They're rolled into that number as well. And then continuing on year 4 and on is then that inflation adjusted amount for the ongoing maintenance program. Where it comes to the additional protection that you all asked for through your mayor is the additional bonding on the maintenance program. So as I mentioned, the bonding was included in the upfront renovation as well as in that spread of the first 3 years of the capital. What that bonding line, that white line on, I don't have the spreadsheet, so I can't tell you what row, but 3 lines down, it starts with 1147 and increases over time, is bonding each of those maintenance years plus the previous maintenance year. So what that means is you are protected through an additional bond that has a cost associated with it that you can see there, but that's protecting your ongoing amount, the aggregate amount, up until the next renovation. So the very bottom blue square where it says 3-year spread of the upfront renovation, which you can see is the 361. Then there's a maintenance program, but there's also that bond line included. So that drops down. That's the total. It's not additional to that bond line. That's just explanatory showing that. And each one of those years then is bonded. So as you can see, as you get towards that renovation in year 13, that number does go up more because you have that additional bond on top of it. So it's almost kind of insurance on top of the insurance that we provide, but it's not typical for us, but it's something that, through discussions with your internal folks, consulting engineer, attorney, what have you, and mayor, we came up with this as an additional protection of the village's funds. And then I did provide a total column in that end column, which was after year 13, where it shows the aggregate of the upfront renovation and the maintenance program with the spread of cost, which basically it's costing you somewhere less than $20,000 to spread that cost out over time. And then if you add that additional bonding, you're just under $100,000 of total cost difference. So those are options to be executed or not by the village to understand and to grill me on. So I will open that up to clarifications, questions, concerns. Mayor Rossi, hopefully I did a fair job of explaining that. If you want to add any color.
Usually the play-by-play guy, come on, Nick. But no, as you said, there was some comments from some of our friends on our revenue advisory committee, two of which I see here with us tonight, concerned about, hey, you're putting all this money forward in maintenance costs, and what happens if the company goes out of business? And it was a fair question, or they failed to perform for some reason. So Nick went a couple of times back to his bosses and powers that be to ask them, what can we do with respect to the Village of Ballston Spa? And they got creative. Obviously, it's a cost to protection, cost to insurance, essentially, but it's much less than what's at risk with respect to the maintenance fees that we're putting in every year in that type of plan. One of the other things to point out is that if we do not sign up for the maintenance plan, we do not get the benefit of doing a spread over a few years or a few payments. So we have to put out $1 million all at once. That obviously is a more expensive interest approach than being able to pay 300,000+, 300,000+. So there's an advantage on a maintenance program in that respect as well. Nick, correct me if I'm wrong in that.
No, you're absolutely right. And the middle option, really, where if you look at the interest that you're, saving or recouping over those 3 years, it, more than covers that total column difference, if you want to call it that, at the end. So there's a financial benefit to that. You're exactly right.
Questions from the board?
Do you have any municipalities that are local that you're working with, or at least in New York State?
Yeah, absolutely. We provided a full New York reference list to Mayor Rossi, but just to name a few: Glens Falls, we're working with them. They're a maintenance program customer. Queensbury is a maintenance program customer. There's a few others around that are within New York State. I believe we have up and down the 87 corridor there about 10 to 12 full maintenance program customers. We haven't really been pushing up north into New York until recent years, but that is a growing market for us, and we're continuing to gain new customers there as well.
Bernadette was asking, Trustee Bernadette was asking, where is the money held? It's held in your accounts, I'm assuming.
Yeah, so the money is held in our account, which is one of the reasons that we looked at this form of bonding. Part of the way that our maintenance program works is that the services that we're rendering in that year, a portion of that funding is going to pay for those services that are rendered in that year. A portion is going to pay for future services, and once you're into the program far enough, it's kind of a push and a pull. Part of the funding is going towards future work, and part of it is paying work that has been done. Once you're getting into that next renovation cycle in year 13, that's an example of, if you choose to go on from there, you certainly can, and you're locked into an inflation adjusted maintenance program amount at that point. Yeah, so it is held with us, and that is where the bonding question came out. There was no other options that were feasible for all parties. Let me put it that way.
So is the maintenance just for the one tower, or is it for all our towers?
For one. So USG doesn't do the actual work on the glass line towers. They will help coordinate that under separate contracts that they can ensure that the work gets done each year. Basically, Aquastore, I believe, is the name of the company. There's only one outfit, basically, sole source in New York to do the work on those glass line tanks, and so they coordinate with Aquastore, their Aquastore's New York arm, to do that work. Nick, take me through that too, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we did provide, an option for the compliance, if we're talking DOH compliance and annual inspection, which we call a condition assessment on those tanks. We certainly can provide that. We can be a liaison to Aquastore. We would not have that pass through us. That would go direct to the village. It's just in the village best interest and For a lot of reasons, we're not interested in being in the middle of that. However, we would help protect and ensure that the work was done, within our inspection auspices that we'd be providing you in that type of program. But it wouldn't be a conventional maintenance program where we're renovating that tower because, as the mayor mentioned, it's a sole source type of program there. One thing that, oh, sorry. The only other one thing that is a complication on the, I don't know if you want to call it a complication, but the John Street Tower has a lot of cellular carriers on it. And within the maintenance program, something that we provide to all of our clients that is not an upcharge, there's no additional invoice or anything for that, is towers that do have cell carriers on them. We help coordinate, making sure that the construction drawings are furnished, that they're reviewed by our professional engineer internally. We can, interface with any engineering you have on staff or consultants, if you wish, as the village. And then we make sure that that maintenance is performed to the specifications of the construction drawings. We do a pre and a post inspection, and we are in almost all cases charging back to the cell carrier for that work. So if they come on and do something after we've renovated this tank that would damage your asset, they would be responsible for that, and we would provide the oversight, as well as providing, a point of contact that can free up your resources to be working on your water system and not, the construction and maintenance of cellular on top of your water tanks. That's really our expertise, and we're minding your asset and minding our own maintenance for that matter. We're minding our own work that we're contractually obligated to maintain with those cell carriers as well. So that's not a minor piece of what this project is, and not a minor piece of what protection we're offering.
And Nick, just real quick, if I can, the last line tanks, in your opinion, probably only have about how many years left before they probably have to be replaced?
It's it's an asset that's designed to be put up, and then you can do repair on them. They have modular panels that can be replaced. But when they start to fail, and I have a customer in northern New Jersey with a similar glass-lined Aquastore tank, there's a time and a place to do them, but within a 30-year span, and sometimes sooner than that, sometimes a little longer, they end up, all of the panels deteriorate. So the whole idea of replacing one or two isn't really feasible, right? You start seeing a mass failure, and then, the tanks basically have to be replaced. We call them temporary storage tanks in our lingo, temporary still being fairly long-term, but you're replacing those rather than refurbishing them. So on a 30-year cycle, you may be replacing half the cost of a new steel tank. Whereas if you have a steel tank, you can come in and do maintenance for less cost of ownership over the long term. But there's a give and the take on when you have those in place. You kind of want to let them go as long as you can, basically.
So a couple thoughts and questions.
Sure.
So if this is bonded and it's you're earning interest on these funds, there could be, is there a scenario that they could be earning more interest than the value of the contract of the maintenance?
No, in terms of, it's $26,000 a year that goes in, plus 3.5% inflation was the bid amount. Was that accurate?
That's the standard inflation. Yeah, that's the ENR. There's an ENR construction index. How we come up with that inflationary amount that it's tied to. That's the Engineering News Record Construction Inflation Index, and that's where the 3.5% comes from. So the interest on the 26,000, per year would be pretty minimal dollars.
The current cost, essentially, or the current amount of money over 12 years of maintenance fees, because technically it's 12 payments, it looks like, times 26,000 of current dollars, it's about $312,000. Is that about right? But obviously we inflate every year because of the cost of money.
Correct. Yeah, you'd have to back out the cost of money if you wanted to account for terms of real dollars of today. But yes, exactly what you said.
And it's completely obligated to be used for the work on our towers.
Right. She's asking if it's obligated to be used for the work in the towers.
It is contractually obligated for that. So when we do the initial maintenance, obviously we're spreading that cost over under one of these scenarios here, and then all of the additional maintenance phase payments are paying for the work that is being performed in that annual period of time, as well as the additional coatings. There, it cannot be used for anything else, and it's in the contract that is the case.
Mayor Rossi, just, have we found out how much it would cost to do annual maintenance, just the standard contract?
So in the other bid, that was bid out at $5,000 a year. Nick and I had a discussion last week because I was asking about some of the numbers here. Nick, what were you averaging the cost on your end, or your thoughts of the annual inspection, maintenance, and compliance?
Yeah, so if you're, it kind of depends on how you break it down, right? If you're talking about just an inspection and we're not, minding your cell carrier work, we're not doing work if we find something out of compliance, just inspection services and a report for DOH, maybe something like $2,500. But we allot more than that for, if we're in a maintenance contract, we allot more than that for compliance. Screens go bad. There's repair and maintenance that are done on an annual basis, touch-ups, things like that. So there is a percentage of that, maybe something closer to around $5,000 per year, that would go into the actual work performed. Then there's also, if you're talking about our internal accounting, which I don't have the keys to what that box looks like exactly, but I know what the components are. There's a piece of that goes to, project risk, right? Risk assessment for, say, an early failure of the coding system, maybe not due on our part, but due to environmental factors, or, change in regulation and things like this that happen. So there's a lot of different ways you could break that down. A majority of each of those annual payments is going towards the next renovation. If you look at Mayor Rossi's calculation of the $312,000, you're probably looking somewhere between the $200,000 and $250,000 to that next renovation in year 13, which is a tangible, if you want to think of it as a capital improvement project, that's how folks always term it. We would term it as part of maintenance, but that large construction project that would be happening at that time, a majority of the funding would then be placed into that project.
But we haven't gone out and gotten bids for annual maintenance. This is just
Bids for annual maintenance were part of the actual bid. Now we've instituted change contracts or change orders. So we, for now, are isolating the $1,012,000 situation. The cell corral and the maintenance are currently not in there because we wanted to start moving them along. But while we're in this discussion, we also need to figure out, are we paying it in 3 chunks? We're paying it in 1 chunk? How are we going to work that exactly? So that's why we haven't signed the final here. We were trying to figure out with Nick what the correct idea is. And I'll talk later to discussion I had with our fiscal advisor from Fiscal Advisors that we had approved last meeting about possible ways to attack this to, save the most money possible in the approach that would actually make the bonding idea or the maintenance in general a good idea from a fiscal point of view. But we'll get that a little bit later on when we're in, I think, old business or whatever it's in down later.
I mean, do we feel like we should get a sense of what an annual maintenance would be?
Well, who else is going to maintain their work, I guess, is the question, because it would basically be a fresh bid at that point when rework would need to be done. Nick, I mean, how would that, have you ever seen that play out?
So there isn't a company that will come in after another company to maintain, that company's work. But to Mayor Rossi's point, we were bidding against, another company that responded with what their annual maintenance was. They had a different approach where, their dollars were shifted around, but when you took their aggregate of everything that was proposed, their upfront renovation was more, and then their total maintenance over the term that we were looking at, including their maintenance program, was significantly higher. There's really, I mentioned we're the largest provider of this. There's really no one that competes, from a financial standpoint, head to head on a yearly maintenance contract like this. You can reduce scope or change things around to make it the numbers different, but when it comes down to being cost competitive on it, we're the market leader there.
So that's the standard model, is a company that does the work always does the maintenance afterwards?
I'll go back to the professional on this.
So there are a few companies that do this, but yes, with those that responded to this approach, that is the case. There's maybe 2 companies in the Midwest and a handful on the Eastern Seaboard that would do this work, and most of them aren't gonna, necessarily travel too far outside of their zone, just from a practicality and cost standpoint. So there's, a few providers, and you had 2 respond to your solicitation, us being one of them, and we were the low.
There's no other questions from the board. Like I said, we'll get to more discussion on this a little bit later about just the fiscal approach generally. Nick, I will be reaching out to you with any other questions that might come up, but we appreciate the presentation and the information. If we can unshare that so we can go back to normal screen here. But thanks again. Nick is based out of northern New Jersey and has made several trips in this direction to evaluate, to discuss. He showed up for the bid opening, in fact. So appreciate his diligence and time throughout this process as well. Did give us a lot of information. So thanks again, Nick.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having me. Happy to answer any questions in the future. Thank you all.
There may be, I don't know if you want to let him know, there may be public comment related that he might want to hear.
Yeah, if you want to stick around kind of in the background there, Nick, feel free to. There may be public comment as Trustee Baskin is talking about. So we will be going there up next. Technically it's on the agenda, so qualifying 5. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, you might want to do one more search throughout for Mary, see if she's around, but in the meantime, let us go to public comment. And as usual, this is public comment on agenda items only, 3 minutes per speaker. I see a hand right there in front of me. Come on out. Yes, you.
Hello, Liz Biddle, 113 Fairground Ave. I have a couple of things. So my first thing is, you guys know, I know this is BSBPA secretary. So thank you for putting the concerts onto the agenda. And I just wanted to point out one thing with our concerts this year, that yes, they're going to start at 7, and then we have the farmers market that's going to go from 4 to 7. So they're going to butt up together this year on Thursdays. And we're bringing back some favorites like the ice cream social and the old community band and stuff. So hopefully you guys will approve that. And then the other thing that I want to talk about that I'm concerned about is the monster truck time. So I live right across the street from the monster trucks, like literally directly. So a couple of things with it really. As a resident of that area, I'm really not in favor of it going till 10 p.m. I really wasn't even in favor of it going till 9 p.m. But just because it's very loud, it's really one of the loudest events that they have there. I feel like it's even louder than the tractor pull. So if you guys know the tractor pull during the fair, in comparison, I feel like the monster trucks are much louder. In addition to that, we have the movie going on that night, the Friday night. So I am concerned about the noise from the trucks impacting our movie that we have going on the Belmont weekend. So I just wanted to put that thought in everybody's mind, and that's it. Thanks.
She loves public speaking, I can tell. Good job, Liz. Thank you. Other questions?
First, a clarifying question. Can we make a comment on this presentation or not?
I just said it's on the agenda, so technically, yes.
Okay. Liz Corvos, 89 Hyde. One question before I get to that is on item 7C. There's additional your speed signs, which seem to be helping on the speeding in at least one direction on Hyde. Where will the other signs be placed? On the brownfield opportunity area advance, what is that advance going to be used on, and how come we don't have a committee yet on this grant that was already granted 2 years ago? On his presentation, I think you mentioned a fiscal analysis. I think clearly you should look at paying for the tank up front with a bond, paying, like 5,000, if that's, budgeting that in, it's a small amount, you shouldn't need to bond that, regular maintenance allocation. And then see what it would be if the village puts money in a reserve fund every year and earns interest on it. Will they have, the funds to fix it in 13 years? Because by giving the money to them, they earn the interest on it. And I gotta believe they make money on this deal. What is the comparison? And I don't really see this as a high risk situation. Workmanship is theirs. They should be, providing quality workmanship. And, in the past, we neglected that tank. We did nothing to it. And with regular 5,000 a year maintenance, I, would expect that it would last a lot longer. And, at least should be laid out as an alternative. Thank you.
Anybody else? Here.
Pete Martin, 20 Chester Court. Are you guys gonna vote on this tonight to accept this, or?
Not sure yet.
Okay, because there are a lot of questions.
One thing I've got to say is if we keep delaying for much longer, we're not gonna have it done this year.
Right.
That's one
And
issue.
I get that,
Yeah.
but, I'm just, after 13 years, what are they saying? They're gonna repaint our water tower for us putting and it's quite a bit less money than what we thought. I thought it was gonna be like $76,000 a year. It's only gonna be about $25,000 a year, which is fine. Is that what they're telling us? After 13 years, they're gonna?
Well, if you're talking about what is in the RAC discussion we've had before, the 76,000 approach was 3 towers with the anticipation of trying to reserve money for replacement of the 2 glass line tanks eventually.
Yes, right.
And maintaining them in the meantime. So the 26,000 is the 26,000, and we're basically multiplying by 3, I think, to get to the number.
No, I get that, but after 13 years, if we're putting 26,000 and 3.5% more each year, what are they telling us they're gonna do after 13 years?
Recoat the outside, touch up the inside, and handle any maintenance issues in the meantime.
So they're not saying it would need the 1.1 million we're gonna be putting into it now.
It shouldn't need 1.1
shouldn't.
at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine. Okay, so they're gonna hold our money, right? I understand that. I know, I looked up the company, did some research, reputable company, I'm fine with it. But so was another company that was started in 1872, went out of business in 2012. And somebody stole a lot of their money and there was nothing there. So we're not talking as much money here. We're talking about 400,000, which I understand. But is there, we got bankruptcy. I don't know how that works if they went bankrupt, and the 400,000, he can explain that later. I only got 3 minutes.
Well, I'm not costing you your minutes, just to clarify the understanding, because you raised some valid points, so I want to make sure there is understanding. In the situation where bankruptcy occurs or non-performance occurs, that's where the bond piece comes in that he's talking about.
Good.
So each year, basically, you have to re-up the bond. So first year, you got $26,000 in, you've got a bond that's X%.
That's something that you'll take care. I mean, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay.
So about 4%, I think is what it is. Next year, you do 52-ish thousand, whatever the.
Okay, so I got
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
What happens if somebody in their company steals the money? Is it guaranteed through the bond if it's stolen? I know it sounds
That's
wacky.
all, the bond, yep, the bond will identify and hold harmless, yep, absolutely.
Okay, and you're saying, okay, that's fine. I mean, I gotta hope that the company has the money still, all right? What happens if we miss a payment for some reason?
Well, that's on us.
That's on us?
That would happen even without the bonding. If we miss a payment, then we're breaching a contract at that point. So that's on us.
All right, I mean, not that comfortable with somebody else holding our money. It's not as much as we talked about in our revenue. I mean, we do need maintenance, this water towers. We have done nothing at all with it, so, I mean, it sounds like to me, it's okay. Yeah, our questions. All right, thanks.
No problem. Thank you.
Can I just follow up on one thing you asked? How much is there an estimate for that final cost in year 2013 for that, more advanced level of maintenance, but not a complete rehab? Do we know how much that would be?
Say that one more time.
Well, just-
Say it into your mic to make sure you're in that
You
direction.
were just saying, we wouldn't need another $1 million job in year 13. I'm just wondering, do we have an estimate for what that would be if it was just a standalone project at that point in time?
Nick is still in audio with this if he wants to pipe in, but my understanding, Nick, is that we can't predict what the level of failure is by year 13. And in some cases, if it happens in year 9, that there's a level of failure on the exterior or the interior, that you're going to actually not do it in year 13, but do it in year 9 to make sure the tower's okay. Is that accurate?
That is, we would, because we're responsible for the maintenance, we would short cycle if there's ASTM tests that we perform on that. So we're not just, putting our finger in the air and testing. We're using a scientific process that if we need to paint the tower before that, we actually would do that, whether that's to our detriment financially or not. In the long term, that action will lower the cost of the maintenance of the tower. So that's in the village's interest and ours. So it's not that we would necessarily wait to year 13. However, if we do approach year 13, there is no way that we will go beyond that. And it's also within the scope of work that we would perform that maintenance at that point. And within our contract, it does state what I just said as well. So there's protection for that. To the question of the dollars and cents of it, if you went to get an overcoat, which we do perform these, if there was let's say a very good foundational coating system that was already on your tank, which is not the case, but let's just say that there was, that project would be somewhere probably in today's dollars around that $300,000 amount. And that's where I was talking about the reason that we're still able to do it for that amount in year 13 is that we know that work is coming, and that, whatever amount that we're spending on the annual, yes, we are holding your money. And I agree with that. And I'm sure we're making interest on that. But even if you add up all that interest, we're not talking about a large sum of money. And to go out in 2030 and get an overcoat on that tank, I know none of us can predict the future, but I can almost say with certainty, seeing what I've seen in the industry over the last 20 years that I've been in it, it would be a very tall order to get a $300,000 paint job on that tank in 2030. That, in terms of dollars of 2030, I don't see that happening. But I think these are all valid questions. So hopefully I answered it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, anybody else in the house? Gina?
I have Mary on FaceTime. Is that acceptable?
No, it has to be up there.
She has to be on Zoom. Okay. Did you hear that, Mary?
Okay, anybody else in the room for public comment? We have hands up?
I do. The first one's Mary, so should I
Well,
on that one or go to Nathan Ward?
I
She
think,
can talk, she just
Yeah.
can't, and she's just a member of the public right now.
All right, so let's.
I don't think Mary's intention with the hand raise was to be talking on this subject, is my guess, but
Mary, are you there?
I am here.
Your hand is raised. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just trying to connect, but I've tried 5 different devices and it's not allowing camera. It's not allowing any visual.
okay, well, Mika will meet you back up and we will go to other public comment. Nathan Ward, I think is next.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Nathan Moore, allowed to talk. There we go, Nathan Moore.
Hi, Nathan Ward, 1 Hyde Boulevard. I'm excited to see that the village is spending some money to buy your speed signs. I like the one that was installed at Chapman and Hyde, and I actually sat down at that bench to watch people go by it, and people do slow down. On occasion you do see people that just ignore it, but I do think it is working there. And I just encourage the village to keep on improving public and pedestrian safety, use other methods or more of these signs in the future. Also, I just want to echo what Liz Biddle said about the monster truck rally. Since it is a couple months ago, it was approved to end at 9 o'clock, which it was reasonable, but now it's going to 10, which there's 2 problems with that. One is our movies in the park usually start at 9 o'clock because that's when the sun goes down. And feel like there's going to be a lot of noise coming from the monster truck rally and disturbing the movies in the park. And I would just hate to cancel or have the movies in the park not go as planned or as well, especially during Belmont week and weekend. And then second, people are heading to bed around that time. I know I go to bed at 9:30 now because of our baby goes to bed at super early and we need our sleep. So and then we have a lot of events coming up for the BSBPA. First Friday in June, like I said, the movies in the park, Secretariat, and then our first day for farmers market is June 15th. We have a lot of vendors this year, so excited to to put those on. Thanks.
Thank you. Who else we have?
Keith Lewis. But I want to make sure I grab him twice. Okay.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. The home rule language is not attached, and without the specific verbiage, I find it difficult to evaluate. I'd suggest the board distribute that upfront for transparency so that residents can review it. I'm clear on.
It's actually there. It's a separate attachment. It came in a little bit late on Friday, but it's there as a separate PDF.
That's the, from what I read, it was the letter that you're signing, but I didn't see what they are presenting for the legislature to vote on. I understand the objective, and I agree with that the objective is to be able to sell the property, but I think it would be important to see what their language is, so that we're just clear. Also, the minutes being approved notate statements attached, but the statements are not attached online. And reviewing past minutes, they're also missing from all the online minutes that are attached to the village website. And to prevent forcing residents from having to request statements by FOIL and prevent unnecessary staffing expense, I think it would be wise to include them with the minutes in the online version. And lastly, I think it's really extremely important to reiterate that the responsibility of the board is to set policy that's universally applied to prevent exposure. It's also important to make decisions based on approved policy that the board has set. Residents depend on you to create sound policies that are consistent. You're all, in essence, running an entity with 4 million plus in yearly budget. So doing a one-off could set precedent for other employees to make similar requests, leading to potential inconsistencies and challenges managing vacation time within the organization. Additionally, taking time off for vacation is important for employees' health and well-being. Many companies do not allow vacation to roll over because they want their employees to relax, to recharge, to reduce stress. And ultimately, that leads to increased productivity and job satisfaction, retention, and overall mental health and well-being. Allowing employees to cash out on vacation time instead is taking time off, could potentially deprive them of those benefits.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay, anybody else on Zoom?
Yeah.
Anybody else in the room? Okay, let's go to the consent agenda. And out of the 10 items, I will take monster trucks off because I actually sent an email to Jen Clinton. She's awake right now. She's an early one to rise. I'm not sure if she's going to see it in time. to see if 9 PM would be acceptable for the ending time for that. So I will wait to see and save that for last if need be. So we're removing 9 for now. Anybody else want to remove anything?
6, please.
Okay. Anybody else? Can I get a motion to approve the items on the following consent agenda with the exceptions of number 6 and number 9?
Second.
Trustee Fandesa, trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's go back to, actually, hold on, we'll save the 2 consent agenda items for the end of this, out of respect. Can I get a motion approving the Attached Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA policy? Trustee Fandesa, trustee Baskin, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Can we just, this is basically a standard thing that's mandated. Can you explain,
Formalized.
yeah, can you explain the origins of the text for this?
Yeah, came from our labor attorney,
Yeah, and she's basing it on national
New York.
requirements or New York
and
requirements?
Federal, I believe.
I would presume she's basing it on the Family Medical Leave Act.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, right out of that, right?
I would presume so, as counsel.
So I guess my question was, why do we need to do that if it's an act
Because
already?
you have to do it. It's a lot, it's one of the required things for HR folks to have a FMLA policy so that it can be properly, someone can come and they can fill out the proper form and go through the certification process. Although I'm not your labor counsel, I do a lot of this FMLA stuff for other clients. And you need to have a policy so that your employees know how to abide by the law, so that there's documentation that indicates what the leave was taken and when it was taken, and just to follow it all up.
All right, in addition to this, whatever the state.
And also, we discovered this during contract negotiation stuff, that if you have more than X number of employees, which we cross, you need to have the policy. So not every employer out there has to have it, but because we crossed the threshold, we need it.
All right, thanks for that explanation.
The vote was unanimous, yes, 4-0. Can I get a motion to approve Labella Associates extending an invitation to bid for repairs to Village Hall? Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion approving the purchase of 3 Your Speed Is signs for an amount not to exceed $9,000? Price quote provided by the Ballston Spa Central School District is attached. The funding will be moved from the general fund balance to A31200200, please see Q, and paid for out of that budget line. Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Raymond, discussion.
So is there no other contingency funding that would be better than the general fund balance?
At this point in the year, the contingency is going to drop anyway into there. So the general view of our accounts has been to move it from fund balance to a line, from the line to the payout ultimately. So that's why I was comprehensive in the tracking the money situation there.
All right, thank you. And where will these be?
So in my discussion with Jeff, they're going to be movable. You've seen the one that's up. So as we get the stop signs, let me address that quickly. I'm not to steal your show. Jennifer did just respond, by the way, so remind me to go back to that. But the trees that need to go down are still being discussed on high, because a couple of trees would be in the way of visibility of the stop signs. So they're currently in the way of even the pedestrian sign. And so one of them is clearly dead, and the other one they're going to work with Park and Tree on. So once those stop signs get put in, obviously the Your Speed Is sign right on top of the stop sign doesn't make much sense. So it'll be moved further down the road one way. We'll put another one in the other direction to basically balance out High Boulevard for the time being, one of which belongs to us, one of which doesn't, because of the schools districts. And then we'll have 2 to go in other locations, probably in the North District, if I had to guess right now, because we've been getting a lot of complaints about some of the Rollins Street and John Street zone situations. But again, it's mobile, and so we just need to make sure we have the direct sunlight because of the solar nature of those signs.
Yeah, I was hoping that we were gonna put one northbound on Hyde. And I would recommend putting the northbound out and not necessarily hurrying and putting the stop signs, just to see what happens. We may find a positive effect without necessarily having to put stop signs out there. Seems that there's residents that have already
stated they've experienced a positive effect from it. So having one in the other direction, we may find that, that's the solution to our problem.
Okay, well, that was already approved, unfortunately, if that's what you're trying to do. So in the meantime, we can approve this to get the signs.
I think it's great we're doing this,
Okay.
and I think we should, if we have funds and there's other places, these have been proven effective, so.
Yeah, I mean, if the best practice is, your speed is sign, and if there's evidence that it's working, maybe we want to revisit whether stop signs are needed, if they're not best practice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion officially rejecting the bids received in January 2024 for the Union Fire Company #2 Firehouse Apron Sidewalk bid invitation, and to approve a new invitation for bids for the same project with new plans which reduce the scope of work and which incorporate subsequent New York State DOT comments? Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
trustee Raymond, discussion.
I guess my only question is, I know we've already allotted and budgeted for the original amount. If our second bid comes under the excess funds, are they going to be transferred back into general fund?
Well, no, what's happening is what we get the notion of what a new bid will lead to, because we did ask for a little bit of information from, and I don't want to reveal numbers here out of fairness for the bid process that still has to occur. Let's assume that's the worst case scenario though, then it still puts it at what we revised bid for next budget year at, because we still have Labella fees on top of that we're gonna have to pay with respect to this. So it's almost right on the nose what we budgeted, maybe a few $1,000s off. It's not gonna be anything major. So we'll when we get to that point, if we're lucky enough, we can discuss at that point what to do with it.
Okay.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mary's looking a little different up there now.
She's trying all sorts of things.
God bless her.
So I'm trying to play around.
She's probably trying to switch camera, switch video option there. So I've seen that happen before. Can I get a motion approving the attached brownfield opportunity area grant advance request of $38,500 and authorizing the mayor to execute the paperwork related to such request? Trustee Fandesa.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
Video.
Hey, hey.
Oh, no, shut up.
Oh,
No. No.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
So can we have a little explanation of the status of, we haven't heard anything for months.
No, have you gotten anything from Jen? No.
Real quick.
Well, I don't want to meet her because I want her to come in.
Well, no, neither.
You got it.
Okay. So we chose a consultant a few months ago. I would assume we should be working on a committee. So Bernadette, can you just give us an update on where we are and what the plans are? Timing, please.
Sure. So we met with Norabel and Matt from the Department of State for our that first meeting. Kickoff meeting. And that's a simple name. So it was initial discussions with Matt and Department of State. We wanted to make sure we were kind of squared away. And part of the discussion was you can ask for your advance to really start moving along with Labella and also any of the other team consultants that they had noted in their bid to us. And the goal is to have all of us contribute toward building the committee. They have some suggestions as far as like what stakeholders might be involved. So we are moving toward those next steps. So I think within June, I'd like to have the committee together.
So is the committee going to go through the formal official committee process? And we're going to take applications from folks in the village and see how they apply as far as the required stakeholders?
Sure. Then it seems like it's worked out for all our committees in the last few years that we have also, tapped and talked to certain people in the community that we thought would be great assets to our committees. So yeah, kind of combination of each.
The state has to approve the committee.
They
and
do
the
have to
composition of
approve
it. So we don't have free reign on it.
Oh, I understand, but it doesn't mean that we can't encourage people to apply.
Sure. I just said-
And also the structures that the board as a whole all contributes
yeah.
to the formation of that committee.
I was just saying that, yes.
Okay.
All in favor of the advanced question?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, I think. Get a motion approving the payment of LaBella Associates for work performed related to the Pulp Street Mill Emergency Project totaling $65,700 and approving the use of ARPA funds located in the general fund balance for such payment. Hello, Mary.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's what there is now.
Next has to unmute.
Got on mute one more time, Mary. We had muted you back up there.
Okay, all right. I said you guys make it look so easy.
Mary, we have a motion coming up here. Did I even get it first and second? I don't believe I did.
No, not yet.
Okay, so can I get a motion approving the payment of LaBella Associates work performed related to the Pulp Street Mill Emergency Project totaling $65,700 and approving the use of ARPA funds located in the general fund balance for such payment?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Baskin.
I'll second.
You're the Mary. Trustee Price motion with the second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Before we get to the Woods Hollow question, let's go backtrack for a second. Jen Clinton from Saratoga County Agricultural Society, also known as the Fairgrounds. I'm not sure where it's coming from because she already has permit for this, but I think she doesn't realize we have to still approve that. Yes, it should be done by 9 p.m. It's roughly a 90-minute show with a short break in the middle. So as long as we don't have a rain delay, it would be 7 to 8:45-ish. If they have a rain delay, Liz, I would assume that the movie wouldn't be going on anyway that night. So I will entertain the following motion. Got to get a motion approving a monster truck rally to be held at the Saratoga County Fairgrounds on 6/7 and 6/8, setup 6/6, takedown 6/9, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. with monster truck rally to be finished by 9 p.m.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Baskin,
Second.
trustee Raymond, discussion.
Can we amend this to say till 9 p.m.?
I just did.
You did, okay. good.
You made that motion, in fact. Look at
You,
you.
you started by saying 10 p.m. and then you said to be done by 9 p.m.
But for the monster truck rally portion of it, so the noise
Oh,
part of it, it would
okay.
be done by 9 p.m. Obviously, they still gotta get people out of there and work on takedown and stuff like that for that night. So that's why I allowed it from 10 p.m. for that aspect of it, but we're making clear that the noise.
Is 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
All right, great, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
I oppose.
So 4 to
You
1,
oppose?
motion carries.
Oh, you don't want it at all? It is very noisy.
It's okay.
So it's a tractor pull.
It's louder than a tractor.
But either way, 4 to 1 carries. Can I get a motion allowing Terry O'Connor to cash out 112.75 hours of unused paid time off?
I'll make that motion.
And trustee Price Bush with the second. Discussion.
So I know we've had some collaboration back and forth via email. So we could bring the public up to date. I guess we did come up with a precedent. However, that precedent was a specific situation where we had workforce shortage in a critical timeline. Is that the same situation here?
No, but I having spoken to Elaine Gold, who's our labor attorney, essentially what Mary had shared with us with respect to the state law has accuracy to it. Until we have a policy, we don't have the right to willy-nilly reject on these types of situations. And so as a result, and this even happens regardless of what the reasoning was with the DPW situation you're citing from last year with the Front Street project, there's nothing in their policy, in their contract that explains cash out or prohibits cash out. So it would be it's not even a contractual issue there. It is a general labor issue in that situation.
There is
a clause in the
something.
contract.
No, the clauses in the contract are about maximum that they can carry over.
No, there's a clause in the contract that you get paid out vacation.
At the end, when
Yeah.
people leave.
Correct. They get paid out vacation, but it doesn't prohibit interim payout. So that's why we could do what we did.
You could, well, the way the language reads, I believe it's section 7, is that if agreeable with the village and the employee, that they can get paid out vacation and still work. So that's
Correct.
essentially what we're doing here.
Okay, and
But
so,
that's in a union contract. Are we saying we're adopting all the policies of the Teamsters?
no,
union
it's
contract?
a statement that there is no policy, and therefore the policy reverts to the New York State law on this, which is a request for payout should be honored.
Well,
The request for payouts typically if the leaving
Right.
employment or retirement.
the payout would
Mary,
happen.
Mary, if you want to, since you provided the information on this.
I read it and I appreciate the
Well,
information.
I
Mary.
asked Mary to speak.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, if there is no policy that says that payout is forfeited or nullified, then the employee is able to get that payout. If not, they can dispute it with New York State Department of Labor, and we would probably face a fine.
And looking deeper into that, New York State is one of a handful of states that actually has that policy that I wasn't aware of, not being universal in the country. But New York is a yes on that part of labor law. So
But,
we all learned something on
But
this one,
we're,
actually.
yeah, that's interesting, but
The interpretation of that is typically upon leaving employment or retirement.
right, we're not saying
Based on,
clause.
based on what?
I guess based on every other municipal contract,
You can't apply. So the other thing that Elaine has been clear to speak to me on is that the labor contracts do not have any bearing on the non-labor union employees. So you cannot just extend them. Now, historically, there have been aspects that have been applied, like some will get the better of the longevity payouts type of situation. And so tradition is something that we've honored generally, but whether or not this is tradition or not, I don't know beyond telling you that we did vote for a discretionary scenario last year for payout of PTO. And
well, do we actually have PTO?
yes.
Or is it sick and vacation?
That is PTO. It's paid
Well,
time
the term
off.
PTO is usually a lump sum that's used for either sick personal.
No, PTO here is a general category with subcategories that we call sick time.
But where,
vacation
we
time,
asked for
etc.
a policy, is there there's no written policy?
There
right?
is no
So-
written policy.
So we don't have,
In the village of Ballston Spa on this.
right, so the best we have are 2 union contracts, which don't refer to PTO, they refer to vacation, sick,
You
personal.
cannot use those contracts for
But
non-union
that's-
workers.
But often, I
You
understand,
cannot
I
use
understand.
those contracts
All right, so-
for non-union
So
workers.
that makes it
Let me
even
do-
more
let me just be
important.
clear on
No,
that.
I understand, but what is your accrual rate based on?
Her accrual rate of what?
Of time off? What is it based on?
She's built it up as an accrual total.
Yeah,
What's
but
the
what are
equation?
the accruals? Do they match the accruals of the contract? The
You
Teamsters
cannot
contract?
use a contract for non-labor union
What I'm saying is
employees.
you've already created the precedent that you use.
You cannot use a labor union contract for non-labor union employees. I just have to keep telling you this. Now, this is where a policy is going to become key. And I didn't mean to be snarky to a certain degree when I said it to you originally, Sean, but 7 years, and this is the first time this has come up for you. I don't understand why it's fallen in our laps here to a certain degree to finally take care of
You
this.
should ask Mayor Romano why you never created. the
Well,
policy.
but you sat here for 7 years, never asking where's
Well,
the
it's
employment
the
manual?
executive who creates policy for the staff in the office.
No, that actually it's the entire board. They have to approve it.
Well, we
The
approve it,
mayor
but you
does
create the
policy.
policy.
I do not create that policy. That's a fiscal policy. I would not create that policy.
You wouldn't create the
Why
mayor
do you-
wouldn't take
why do
the
you think
lead.
you're voting
So
on
you're
this?
in charge of the staff, but you're not in charge of creating policy for the staff.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay, would you like to take that?
I
I mean,
can, I don't want to get involved because.
you're not the labor
I'm
attorney.
I'm not your labor counsel. But as even though the mayor under the village law has the authority to direct staff, no village policy can be created that is not approved by the Board of Trustees.
Well, that's obvious,
Yeah.
but I'm
But it's
saying.
not, that's what he was
in-
just saying.
no, In terms of creating and leading the effort to create a policy, it would make sense for the executive to take the lead in that, and to blame Sean, I think, is disingenuous. That's all. This is a side, this has nothing to do with the issue.
Well, the executive is working on getting an employment manual together, and spoke with our attorney, who's not our labor attorney, earlier today, and she's got some ideas on where we can turn to make that a short process. But things like the FMLA policy, we just approved that, we're all amazed didn't exist in the first place tonight. There are policies that we need to be changing along the way that need to be included, harassment questions and stuff like that along the way that need to be handled better in our estimation ultimately. So all those things need to be incorporated into an employment manual that doesn't exist currently. And don't ask me why it doesn't exist, because I can't tell you. I'm just told, just like with no parking code and no parade code, yeah, you got to go fix that. Okay, we'll fix it. But in the meantime, we have a request right now for PTO payout. All in favor, roll call vote, please.
So I haven't said everything I'd like to say.
About this or something
about
else?
about this. I'd be very interested in seeing some written opinion from our labor attorney on this. I do appreciate what Mary sent. I'd be interested in seeing the more of the text. My potential interpretation of this text is we do have to do payout, but it doesn't have to be whenever an employee requests it. And the standard practice is when someone leaves or passes away, then there's a payout. And I do think it would be in the village's interest to not incentivize payouts, but to incentivize people to actually use their vacation. And the reason that typically it waits till the end when people leave, because then they no longer can use their vacation because they're leaving. So I don't think, so the bottom line for me is, I think before we set a precedent for non-unionized staff, that we, it could just be between now and next meeting, that we at least develop a policy that speaks to this issue. And because there could be significant implications to do one thing and not another. And maybe we find out that we want to make a policy that doesn't exactly comply with what the motion that's before us tonight. And then we've in the position of treating one employee different than another. Also, whatever we decide does have implications for unionized workers if we set precedent for non-unionized in terms of their contracts potentially.
No, it does not.
Potentially it could.
The contract supersedes the policy. That is part of what is
actually. If we grant a significant increase in benefits to non-unionized employees, it is quite possible that within the next union negotiation, they will want to get that.
Question. Yeah,
so anyway, there's implications about how to act. And we even have disagreement on whether the contracts talk about payouts or not. Some of us didn't know that, and they do. And it is a model. Often what happens is in municipalities, the contracts with the union set the standards, and then afterwards, the non-unionized, there's a law passed to follow the contracts of the unionized. And so we haven't done that, but that's often the case. So anyway, so
Can I interject?
Yeah, let me just, so anyway, I'd be more comfortable waiting on this, tabling it or waiting on it until we talk about a policy and think of all the implications of a policy.
Mary, go ahead.
Terry in good faith asked for a payout. There was no policy. There's nothing to say she couldn't do a payout. Usually at the end of your anniversary, you can either roll overtime or you can ask for payout. It's up to the employer. I don't think this is a time for us to decide that we're not going to honor it and that we're going to push it back and make Terry wait and decide to write some policy to say whether or not she can have time that she has worked for. I think we should pass this and then we can write a policy and decide going forward.
Roll call.
I have more to say. My feelings on this, and just to be clear, I don't have any issue with somebody cashing out their vacation. If they want to work instead of taking time off, that's their prerogative. However, through this individual voting process that we have right now, it creates us picking potential winners and losers. And we have no metric as to which, for the why. Why did we approve someone? Why didn't we approve someone?
The general law right now, as it's written, is you're.
So
bound to
then why are we
approve.
even voting on it if it's an
Because-
automatic yes?
Because it's still a payout of money, and you are the board. I am the board with you.
So are you saying that eventually when we get policy, that this isn't going to be a vote anymore because it should be just a standard approach?
Most likely, or if it's gonna come in front of the board, it's gonna have been pre-vetted through a policy at that point. So that's the question ultimately that will become.
Again, the reading of the law, the snippet of the law that we were given is quite possible. It would indicate that we need to pay out, but we don't need to pay out upon demand whenever an employee wants. We haven't budgeted for this kind of response and policy. So I'm not clear, and it'd be interested in Elaine Gold's interpretation of this, whether this requires us, and we don't, unless you have an email on this, we don't have this information, whether this requires us to do it upon demand or just do it when someone leaves.
Roll call.
Trustee Baskin?
I'm going to abstain until we have a policy.
It's counted as a no, just so you're aware for when the total comes up, okay?
Yeah.
Trustee Von Denza?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
I too will abstain until we have an official policy.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes, that's 3-2 for purposes vote, 3-0 to 2, but 3-2 for yeses and nos. That motion carries. Okay, we have a home rule request. Should I just read this and move it forward? Home rule request for the enactment of Assembly Bill A10037 and Senate Bill 09269. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ballston Spa, Saratoga County, New York Board of Trustees proposes to transfer Woods Hollow Nature Preserve to the town of Milton the action. And whereas Assembly Member Walsh and Senator Tedisco have drafted the requisite legislation to effectuate the transfer of Woods Hollow Nature Preserve from the Village of Ballston Spa to the town of Milton. And whereas the Board of Trustees must submit a home rule request for the enactment of the legislation, and whereas this resolution indicates the intent of the Village of Ballston Spa to request Assembly Member Walsh and Senator Tedisco to introduce legislation to effectuate the transfer of Woods Hollow Nature Preserve, and whereas the home rule request requires signatures from the mayor and or the village clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ballston Spa Board of Trustees authorizes the mayor and or the village clerk, whichever may be required, to sign any home rule request form asking for the introduction of Senate Bill S09269 and Assembly Bill A10037. Can I get a motion for this resolution to be approved?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Von Denza.
I'll second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
Carl, can you just give some background about what home rule means? Like, why are we doing this? Why do we need a home rule resolution?
Why do we need it?
Because I'm bored.
Okay.
No, home rule legislation, because this is parkland and parkland is held in the public trust, you are not permitted by law to alienate parkland. We have been working on this for about a year now, going through all of the processes, and in order to alienate, which means to sell the parkland, even though we are selling it to another municipality that is also using it for parkland, the parks and also parks, recreation, historic preservation, and DEC have advised that we need to have home rule request. Home rule, as you may know, in New York State, municipalities have the right to rule their homes, I guess, for lack of a better word. But when the property is held in the public trust, we have to have approval from Albany. We've been working with both Senator Tedisco's office and Assemblymember Walsh's office with the town of Milton for about a year, going through different remunerations of different recitations of the actual legislation. We received the notice that we have a Senate bill number and we have an Assembly bill number. This is the next step in having them go and introduce it. My understanding is that it was introduced and Bernadette might be able to explain it. It was introduced already to the floor. This is the official introduction for the Senate and Assembly to vote on it. So sometimes if you look at the laws, you'll see specific laws for specific municipalities, like the County of Nassau does something or whatever. That's home rule. So all the seeker, everything we had to do with seeker, everything we had to do with the contract, everything we've had to do with both of these offices has been because it is parkland being transferred from out of the public trust into here another public trust. I do want to state in response to Mr. Lewis's comment that Assembly Bill A10037 and Senate Bill S09269 are on the state, the Senate and Assembly websites. And all you have to do is look up those numbers to see what the actual bill is. So if anybody wants to look up the number to see what the bill is, it's a lot of legalese basically saying, yes, you can do this. I hope that helps.
And just as part of the process, at any point, do we need to declare this property surplus?
We already did that
Did we do that?
like a year and a half ago.
No, I thought you wanted to, but we didn't do it.
We ultimately, you did ultimately end up doing that.
We did approve it.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know.
It would not have gotten this far through both the town and the village and the state and
Okay.
seeker without it.
Okay, thanks.
Roll call.
Trustee Baskin?
Yes.
Trustee Von Denza?
Yes.
Trustee Price Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes. Okay. That is everything there. Mayor's announcements. Again, thank you to everybody for showing their generosity to the Rask family who endured the fire on Friday morning. Thank you to Sean Thorpe, and I want to say Ed Ackley was out there also. Or it was either Ed or Scott. I think it was Ed Ackley though, from our Ballston Police Department as some of the first people on the scene. Chief Bayshore and the Ballston Spa Fire Department, all the mutual aid folks, Community Emergency Corps, and I'm leaving people out. I apologize, but it really took more than just a village to make sure that this was handled as quickly as possible. Obviously, the house is a complete loss. Insurance adjustment, I think, was there on Saturday. But the Rask family has reached out to state how appreciative they are, not only of the generosity of all the donors, because I believe we're up to around $47,000 or $48,000 between the two GoFundMe's that were out there. I saw also the other stuff that has been offered along the way, clothing and gift cards and stuff like that. And also just their thankfulness for the professionalism everybody used and the sympathy and just being there for this family from our staff, from our departments along the way. So thank you to everybody, and keep praying for the Rask family that they come out of this better than ever. It sounds like they're well on their way to getting to that healing process for something that was kind of a surreal situation, to say the least, throughout this weekend. Other than that, I'm going to pass on further mayor's announcements. I do not have the treasurer's report in front of me, but it is on file. If you have it handy, I will happily read it. Thank you. And it's sales tax distribution receipts were good. Actually, Village Ball Spa received $120,169 on April 24th, 2024. Anything above $100,000 right now is kind of bonus as far as I'm concerned with what we were projecting, so that's a good number. Audit, the mayor and treasurer met with Nate Panucci from Teal Becker, our auditor, in late April. Nate said he has information that the last treasurer had sent to him to finish up the fiscal year 22 audit. Once that's wrapped up, we'll start with the fiscal year 23 audit right after that. Water and sewer, our office is starting preparation for the printing and sorting of the meter cards that will be received by village residents by June 1st. Village taxes, the treasurer's office is working with Edmonds to upload the tax information based on the assessed values for the village property taxes. Thanks to the county for their assist as always on this. Hopefully, this will be completed this week, and we will move ever closer to completing calculations. The village tax bill should arrive on June 1st, 2024, with the due date of July 1st. Any tax received after that will incur penalties. In the financials, the April bank reconciliations financial reports have been completed for the month of April 2024. Liaison reports. Sean, take it away.
All right. Completed items, Colonial Hills entrance, they've done the topsoil and seeded it. Patch paves, they did some water digs, and some catch basin repairs. And 3 trees were cut down on 9 Charlton. Hydrant flushing, 80% complete, 320 done, 80 to go. Police station rehab is at 90%. Wow, we've seen daylight. So American flags up, 50% complete. Spring Street sweeping, 60% complete. And sanitary sewer tap on Pleasant Street. The to-do list for the upcoming couple of weeks is continue hydrant flushing, try to finish off the police station, complete the sweeping, start brush pickup this week or next. So those folks who's had it out there, I know that there's been piles languishing for a while. You know, they've been busy, so hopefully they'll get the majority of it before Memorial Day. But probably if you wanted to do a cleanup on Memorial Day and put it out, they're probably gonna do one more sweep. So, and then special water samples for the EPA, pickleball, basketball construction of the court, install no parking signs at Grove Seat, stop signs on Hyde Boulevard, stump grinding the week of May 20th, pool filter tank, major repair, and then grade prep Friday, May 13th. That's what we have.
Thank you, sir. Oh, sir. ASAP, we're trying to get the fence installed, and that'll be we're working on that, and so stay tuned. Mary, going to you next. We put the replacement display project as old business, so you don't have to cover that here. But if you have anything else, library or events wise.
Okay, yeah, the library received their $40,000 big check from Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh. And you can see the pictures of that on social media. It goes towards their capital campaign, and we appreciate her generosity very much. With the events, we're going to have Hope for Children program on June 1st, which is International Children's Day. Rain date is June 2nd. So far, we have BACC, Ballston Spa School District is participating. Teachers are going to be helping the kids do the artwork on the signs. The trade classes are cutting out signs. Superintendent's office and the counselors are going to be participating to talk with both children and parents at the event. This is going to be down at Kelly Park from 11 until 1. There's going to be food vendors also. We're also going to have the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Saratoga Center for Family, and Pete Champagne is going to be down there at Kelly Park looking for volunteers to return another day to spruce up the playground equipment in the surrounding areas. And also the BSBPA will be there with their support, and we look forward to it. It's going to be a good informational, educational program, and we hope to continue it in some form, or the events committee is going to build on it every year and do something different. And the events committee chair, Ray, can fill in more detail on anything that I have missed on this.
Okay, thank you, and we'll wait for all business for that part of it. So that's coming up very soon. In the meantime, Bernadette.
I'll pass. Nathan already took care of these.
Nathan, your solar thunder. Ben, go ahead.
I think this battery's dead. Can I borrow your? That's a good flash. You get batteries?
No.
Well, sure. We're almost toward the end of it anyway. So
This on? I got a nice report from Caitlin. First you once, and I want to thank everyone who came out to celebrate Arbor Day. We did 2 trees, so that was a lot of fun, and they're going to be beautiful. And as special thank you to Park and Trees, Christopher Williams, who's from the Cornell Cooperative Extension. He did a great job both prepping the property and planting trees and explaining the best way to plant and maintain trees. So he's got a wealth of information to share with us. And he also, sorry, I should mention, he got the Cornell Master Forest Owner Program to donate the trees. So thank you to the Cornell Master Forest Program. We're very excited to learn that the village was awarded a DEC Urban Forestry Tree Planting and Tree Maintenance Grant for $41,000. And this will go towards tree planting and maintenance of existing trees on streets and in village parks. I guess we're still waiting for an official email. You haven't received anything? So we're waiting for that, but we did see, I guess, the governor's announcement, right?
Yeah.
So we're counting on that. There is a work day in Wiswall Park. Everyone is invited to Saturday, June 1st. Sunday, June 2nd is a rain date starting at 9:30 a.m. They're looking for volunteers to help with some weeding in the garden areas and also planting annuals and spreading mulch. So this will ensure the park's ready and in bloom before the start of farmers market and the garage sale. So volunteers should bring garden gloves, shovels, spades, any other garden gear you have. And you can reach out to the Facebook page for any other information. And she says, last, we want to remind everyone to keep an eye out at Wiswall Park in the near future for a visual of the proposed master plan, the Wiswall Park plan, and an opportunity to participate in a survey to help us collect community feedback. So we're coming down to the last step in the community input process. So very important for people to give us your thoughts on if there's anything else you think needs to be in the park or any changes necessary. So keep an eye out for that on the village Facebook page, Park and Tree Facebook page, and in the park also. There'll be signs. So thank you very much. Bernadette, you want to talk about Arts Committee? Oh, okay, sorry. I also was not there, but I do have their minutes. So let me just get to it. You have them?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's basically, they have a number of projects going on. They continue to work. They had a very successful pop-up poetry month, so thank you for everyone who contributed to that. They're working on banners. They're working on trash can panels. They're working on their own internal tags and mission statements. They're going to be participating with BSBPA, Movies in the Park. They'll be doing activities, and with Farmers Market, they're going to do some tie-dye things. So keep an eye out there. Their next meeting is coming up this Wednesday at right here in this room in the library basement at 7 o'clock. Everyone's invited. Yes, go ahead.
Just follow up though, we did get an email from Katie Tiedemann that Saratoga Arts is a little delayed on getting out grants because of the delay at the state to get them funding. So that still is coming at some point, but they're just a little behind. So.
Okay. Whole business, water tower financing maintenance structure. Just wanted to add the discussion I had with our fiscal advisor, Andrew Watkins, with our treasurer last Thursday. He looked at the options laid out with respect to payment and was very interested in us pursuing the divide by 3 approach, which would require the maintenance, obviously, because of what it allows us to do in trying to dodge current interest rates, because the belief is over the next 1 to 2 years, interest rates will probably be dropping. And so for initially, we could probably do, if we wanted to, either self-fund the first payment of 300 something thousand or go get a bond anticipation note to be a ban. We are allowed to, because we're a small village, actually put that money in the bank in the meantime and earn interest on it before we pay it, which means that, or the money that we don't spend, we'll call it, that we're earning interest on. If you look at it that way too, it's called legal arbitrage for us. And we could probably earn 5% on the same money we'd be paying 4.5% for, according to the New York class or NY class interest rates right now. And then in year 2 or payment 2 or payment 3, we could go for the entire shebang, as they say, or if rates seem to be coming down, we could do a bond anticipation note again for that year for the amount. So more or less, you get the point that it gives us some flexibility to dodge what the interest rate environment is right now out there, because what should be in the 4s, or actually the 3s up to 4%, is really becoming, for even 30-year, 25-year approaches, something closer to the 5.5% to 5.75% range from one quote we got. So there's some good thought to trying to delay it, trying to dodge interest rates a little bit in the meantime, using our resources or a ban or a combination therein to approach it. No matter what we do, his thought is to keep it below $1 million, because that will not force us to have to do a rating through S&P. That is another $15,000 plus the additional fee that he charges along the way. We could always do for the other towers that we have to do a second offering, which would still be below another $1 million threshold. So he's very good with giving us some advice on just the practical approach to making sure we're not overspending. But remember that to do the divide by 3 approach, we have to take on the maintenance plan that USG is proposing here, be it direct payment or direct payment with bonding of it, which it sounds like people are concerned about, having access to the money ultimately if we go that route. I'm not necessarily looking for an answer tonight. I just wanted to kind of bounce that off all of you, because I did want to pursue the questions a little bit further with the fiscal advisor last week to see his thoughts on it, and that was his feedback.
So if I understand correctly, if we do the divide by 3, that locks us in for the full 13-year contract.
Nick, you're still awake on us?
I'm awake. You are not locked in for the contract.
We need to get to a hobby, man.
Yes, I was doing things in the meantime. I'm sorry. The 3-year payment is contractually obligated, obviously, because we're going to be performing the work in the first year. You can cancel the contract anytime after that with no penalty. It's just a 30-day notice. Even before the year 4 payment is due, you can opt out of that contract. So it is a very one-sided contract. It binds the contractor, us, and not the client, the village in this case. So that is a benefit to you all.
Okay, thank you. No problem. So why don't we, Nick, are we okay to vote on this in 2 weeks just to let everybody digest what we talked about?
Yeah, that's fine. We are, running up against being able to perform within the contract allotment for the construction schedule and the cell carriers. So, that is kind of playing against this. But yes, I want everybody to, of course, be comfortable and ask the questions that they need to. We'll work with whatever, schedule that we have left in the year, and we can, talk about the nuts and bolts of that.
Right, can you just provide whatever you got in writing so we can just digest it a little more easier? If there's financial, like talking about the bonds and, the things you've given us verbally, is there background information even related to Nick's company, anything you have that we could help us?
If you could provide, or Laverne provide a bid analysis, I don't remember. Did you send that already?
I'm not sure. It's been a while now, but the first bid, just as an FYI, we're assuming we know what the bid was because it was actually misstated, but we believe that it was misstated over $1 million more than what we think it was intended to be. It was still high, very high comparatively. So keep that in mind when we send it to you. We never did actually confirm out whether it was 2 point something or 1 point something ultimately.
Okay.
Yep. Because it wasn't even close to compare to what USG was bidding on that. Okay, so Nick, again, thank you. Sorry for delaying that second piece of it, but I just wanted to kind of hit it in that manner and think about what to do with this during this meeting. I think waiting 2 weeks just gives us that time to digest, and I might request a couple of pieces of information from you for our board in the meantime.
Happy to help. Just want everybody to be comfortable and understand it. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Ray, do you want to discuss the replacement display project a little bit more in depth from what Mary had said? It's up to you.
I would stand, but I'm very tired tonight.
You're fine. Don't worry about that.
Okay, you're looking for information on the
Right, because
car?
what Mary had begun to explain didn't necessarily appreciate that. Some people don't know what it is yet, so I want to give you a chance around
The playground, right?
yeah, well, playground and the event itself. Yeah.
Okay. The event itself is being worked on right now. The symbols of our event are sort of the gingerbread ginger woman symbols, and we were donated over 600 board feet of wood from Curtis Lumber, which formerly was used for birdhouses and whatever else. We got it up to the high school. They are now working on it with their amazing electronic laser cutting machine that they have. I'll be calling them tomorrow, see where they are.
That was neat. I got that video from Dr. Duke. That was
Yeah,
incredible.
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Along with that, I've had meetings with the counselors over at Wood Road, and they're going to get information out to the other schools. They're going to be participating day of the event. The whole event is about child exploitation and what goes along with that, abduction, and it's based on the event that happened last year up in Monroe. It brought it to everybody's attention. There's been several others in the area since, and it's going on and on and on every day. So we're trying to educate the kids and educate the families how to prevent it and how to make sure, the best we can do that it doesn't happen. We didn't want to do it ourselves because obviously we don't have the training for that, but the counselors at the schools do, and they have. It ties in with a program that they are being mandated now to do at the schools. So it's really a good practice session for them. It'll be down there. We will have, just so it's not going to be just an educational day, we're going to have sort of old time picnic type games, kickball games, sack races, those kind of things for the kids. We're going to have craft booths. We got food vendors that are helping us out. What is it, hot dogs and chips and that kind of stuff, something simple that would be given to the kids. We're also gonna be trying to educate as much as we can. I got a ton of information from the National Association for Exploited Children. They were going to try and send a rep, but the rep already had commitments because we've been working on a very short timeline. But they gave us a lot of information that we can pass out. We have other groups that are going to be helping us. We got Rotary that's going to be helping us. We have BACC is coming down and helping us. They have certain programs of their own that they're going to present that day too. Anything to do with safety of children, the Business Association is helping tremendously. We will be offering to the businesses in town a window sticker that will be in association with Safe Kids or Safe Place, which is a national organization that puts up symbols on windows that if you're in trouble and you need to get in, away from the person, this is a safe place for you to go. So that will be in conjunction with our symbols. Again, it's going to be offered to the businesses only. I don't want to get into trying to vet individuals and, any kind of places where we can't feel confident that somebody in need is going to be able to go in and do the job or get help. There's been some question about, well, geez, what's our liability? Your liability is you call 911 and just provide a place for this person, regardless of the age, to be safe until police get there and help. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. It's quite an undertaking. I have to thank so many people that it just has been pulling together, and we're going to do what we're going to do. Okay.
Thank you, Ray.
Sorry, what day is it gonna be again?
It's on June 1st, which is International Children's Day. I just heard something else about a gardening thing going on or something that day, but hopefully that won't draw people away from ours.
Sorry, the hours?
Hours are 11 to 1 at this point. We may be there earlier. Obviously, we're not going to throw people out at 1 o'clock and say, boom, you're done. But yeah, we might, who knows? But it should be a fun day, like I say, crafts and games for the kids and that, so it's not like a total downer type day. That's what it's about.
Ray?
Yes.
The repair work and.
Oh, repair work, yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
I can show you a bunch of pictures I went down myself, and there's been a couple others of us that have gone down to that park and looked at that playground. And there are so many defects in there because it's so old. We're going to try and repair what we can. We have Pete Champagne running the show for that. Couldn't get a better person, more caring person. Andy Champagne will also be helping. We're going to be looking for volunteers. That will be on the 23rd of June.
As of right now, yes.
Yeah, that's the date we've picked. Just to help repair. It needs a lot of the wood is rotted. Some of it we can replace with the plastic wood, which lasts a long time. Others we can't. We've already done one repair because there was a very distinct hazard that had to be fixed. It was an overhead thing where you climb hand over hand, and it was rotted. I mean, it could probably hold the kids that were under 75 pounds or something, but us 300 pounders couldn't get into it. It wouldn't work. So that's been repaired, but we're just trying to get it so that it's a safe place. Obviously, and I mentioned to Sean last time when we had a meeting, it should be replaced, but you're talking a huge amount of money. The small top playground that is there that I put in when I was still working at the squad, that was about $15,000 for that little one. So you're talking probably 300,000 to get a full size playground.
Your Kelly Park playground?
Yeah. At least
When we
300,
originally
400.
did the budget, it was $150,000 in materials, and all the labor was provided from the community.
Right.
But yeah, it's.
But now the way prices are.
Yeah, that was what, 15 plus years ago. So.
Right, so easy, 300, 400,000, and that would be a great grant opportunity if we could get it.
Thank you. You're on, Madam Attorney.
Mayor asked me to just brief the board and the public where we are with respect to the parking code. As you all recall, the village does not have one. So back on April 28th, I provided to you all a draft parking code. I'm still waiting to get some responses. My hope would be that I can get responses sooner rather than later so that we can get this on, for public hearing and ultimate adoption, maybe in June, July, the latest. As you know, it's at least a 2-week turnaround for the local law to actually be filed and come back. So my goal would be that at the meeting on the 28th, we could actually present it to the public and set the public hearing for perhaps the June 10th meeting. or at the latest, the June 24th meeting. At this point, we are unable to enforce any parking tickets if the chief was sending any out because we don't have a code. So that's my timeline. I'm hoping to get with respect to the parking code. Like I said, I haven't received any responses as to it, so I'm hoping to get some sooner rather than later so we can move this forward.
I just had one, I did read it, and the one thing that caught my eye, in addition to like, it went on and on in a way that I thought maybe the state would cover things, but I guess we have to cover them at the local level, just like that FMLA.
Well, actually, we can't cover what the state covers, so what's in that code is what the state doesn't cover.
The one thing that caught my eye that my question is, it says that if you have a parking time limit and you are not allowed to move your car to somewhere else within 500 feet or change from one parking lot to another.
There are little nuances like that throughout that are probably gonna need to be
Yeah,
edited
to
down.
me, that seemed a little harsh,
Yeah.
that people should be.
The number of feet from a fire hydrant, it's not standardized across municipalities. Ours is kind of usually boxed in anyway, and so we may be able to reference paint, and then when there's not paint, reference actual distances in those situations. There's a lot of things, little things like that we need to go through with fine tooth comb.
I think there's some other use that is like 30 feet or something, you have to move it more, there's a 500 feet is excessive, and
Yeah.
and the not being able to move to another parking lot.
But it's a good starting point for us now to be able to work through this pretty quickly, I think. So we've got to do this. We want to hire a PEO, parking enforcement officer, sooner rather than later, so that we can, start getting that in motion. And not that we do it for the revenue, but at the same time, people expect that. There's also questions about some of the usage of our parking spaces for, let's say, business overflow, when it shouldn't be for business overflow. We have to look at that as well. So things like that need to be embraced here, and there's work to be done. So let's collaborate for the next few weeks, especially the next 2 weeks for next meeting. Then maybe if there's open issues, we can talk about those at that point.
Yeah, and then you said you went to, what is it, Watertown? What city did you use? The model for the sun. You talked
About
to someone.
6 different kind of.
Oh, who's mayor? You went to some.
Oh, Great Neck.
One guy.
Great Neck. Very nice.
All right.
Now.
Are there other villages who have this in place?
Yes,
Okay.
every village has this in place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except us.
Except, yeah, and if you recall, one of the things that we did in this case, to make it easier moving forward, is your schedules. Usually the village code will have, okay, this is your schedule of no parking in it, identifies the streets. And this is your schedule of handicap and identifies the streets. That becomes very onerous as you move along, because if you want to add a no parking zone, you have to go through the full local law process to do that. Doing it this way, which Great Neck does and a lot of other villages do, is this is the law, and then you will have to, and I think I put that in my email, you'll have to work with the superintendent and the chief of police to identify those schedules. We do have drafts of those already that they provided us, but you as a board will have to work with them to create the schedules of this is where the no parking is, and this is where the one-way streets are, and this, and then in the future, once those have all been adopted, in the future, if the superintendent finds he needs to add something, he just comes to you and says, can I add this? And you can do it by resolution, which is a lot quicker than going through the whole process.
But there are other places that have like 500 feet, like Great Neck or something.
Yeah, I didn't make it up.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, the reason for that is likely, to stop the people from, I guess, abusing it, like I'm here, oh, nope, now I'm here, now I'm here.
Yeah,
So-
some distances is reasonable.
Parade code timeline.
So the parade code, actually, you'll get that tomorrow. That's been drafted. If you remember, this was asked to be drafted last summer, and then a lot of other things got in the way. So we have drafted this now. I have it for you. Like I said, you'll have it tomorrow. I have it on my screen right now. It's got a little red in there. Ultimately, probably a similar timeline, but because you're getting up to parade season, you may want to have this in place in July to help out. It's fairly specific. And again, I don't know how specific you want it to be. I would rather put more in and have you take it out than to put less in and tell me to put it in. So there's specifics in here as to like the size of the floats and things like that. We can be as general or specific as you want, but that's all in here. So you'll have that tomorrow. So if that could be, you know, do your parking and then do your parades, if we could kind of do those in tandem, that would be helpful. And then we can get both those done this summer.
And what's the protocol is it okay to share a draft with the public and get feedback like on the parade piece early in the process, or is that frowned upon?
The best thing to do is to have the board look at the first draft. And then there's nothing precluding the board from discussing it and presenting it in draft form to the public. You've done that with all of your laws. But you know, if it's something that I'm emailing to you, I would prefer I email to you as attorney-client privilege, so that doesn't go out. But if the board as a whole wants something to go out, then we can present it and it can go out, but not like, hey, I see this, let me send it out, just because it keeps everybody on the same page.
Thank you very much. Public comment, any issue, anybody in the house? And also don't forget, if you are on Zoom, this would be a good time to raise your hand for this portion of the program. I see Ellie Dillon's hand was up first and she can go ahead right over here. Go beating up the other people in the crowd there, Ellie. Yeah. Come on.
Ellie Dillon, 116 Malta Avenue, Ballston Spa. My first question is, have you set the date for the raising of the pride flag for the month of June?
June 1st.
Is that going to be?
That's, I think we've adopted general policy on that over the years, so the assumption was June 1st, yeah.
Okay, 7 o'clock, or do you have a time?
Oh, are you talking about, we haven't actually gotten to
Okay,
that point yet,
all
so
right.
we'll
So
figure
that's
that out.
just a,
Yep.
you know.
Well, now.
I was curious about that, but it is disturbing that the village residents speaking during public comment are called out and insulted at will. I urge this board and this mayor to end allowing this practice. It's immature behavior by those who either don't like or don't understand what they hear, and it really needs to stop. Thank you.
Next.
Louis Cormos 89 Hyde. On the water tower, I think you should show the board an alternative of not doing the contract with this company. Just do it out with assumed interest, and I think you could do a three-way if you borrowed from the fund balance to spread it out. So you could still get that same advantage without committing yourself to this contract. I'm not saying that the contract is necessarily a bad deal, but you really have to compare it to not doing it that way. So that's my thing. And on the human resources policy, I thought that was really bad judgment to pass something when you do need a policy, and if you're going to do it, you could put some sort of policy together in the next 2 weeks. And I can't believe that waiting 2 weeks for a payout is going to be a hardship. And what are other employees going to do now? They're going to come forth and say, we want payouts. It creates a mess. So, not that it shouldn't be the way you do it, but a policy is really needed. And I think you should put that on your list and get it done soon. Thank you.
Quick FYI, in 2 weeks or thereabouts, the rate that would be paid out for PTO would be 2.5% higher. Just a thought. Next. Oh.
Donna Martin, 20 Chesterwood Court. I want to say that I'm pleased that the board passed the funds to be released to Terry. It's money that belongs to her. I used to work for a company. It was never a question. If I wanted my vacation money, all I had to do was ask for it. I do believe you should get a policy in place, but it seems logical that the vote should have been yes from all of you, because there is no policy in place. And it's not setting precedents because it's prior to policy and after policy. So I just don't get how you could vote or abstain from this vote. It just doesn't make any sense to me at all. And my question to you, Trustee Baskin, is one thing you said was it's not in the budget. What if she had chosen to take the time off? Isn't that money budgeted? That's all I have. Thank you. And I'm excited about the pickleball courts.
Thank you. Mike?
Mike Ikalucci, 9 Russell Street. I did not attend the April 8th and April 22 board meetings, but I watched the recordings of those meetings. My son Jared spoke in public comment on April 8th. He expressed his disappointment with the continuing killing of innocents in the Middle East, and he asked the Board of Trustees to consider adopting a resolution expressing outrage over the ongoing deaths. Following his comments, Jared was verbally attacked by 3 subsequent speakers. The first of those speakers said, among other things, the following, and each of these is a quote: "You hate Jews. You always will hate Jews. You'll always be anti-Semitic. You'll always spin it around some Palestinian nonsense. Keep it to yourself instead of taking your soapbox and again casting shame on people. Do the research besides coming up on your soapbox trying to be better than anyone else." As that speaker was finishing, Jared asked whether the speaker was referring to him. Mayor, you immediately dismissed Jared's question and said, quote, "He was facing the board the entire time." Further, you maintained that the speaker was, quote, "addressing the public record," unquote. Finally, you basically offered that if Jared thought this speaker was referring to him, then he was self-identifying. A subsequent speaker seemed to take inspiration from the mayor's comments, referring to, quote, "a couple of entitled speakers who had spoken earlier," and basically calling Jared a narcissist. A third speaker began commenting by saying, quote, "I wasn't going to speak, but obviously I have to because I was just personally attacked." Let me state for the record a number of facts. Jared did not attack any person, group, or country. Jared does not hate Jews. Jared is not anti-Semitic. Jared is not a narcissist. Jared does research and analyzes material and situations before reaching any conclusions. The attacks on Jared are an example of the two-handed way in which you, Mayor, as the presiding officer, choose to run meetings. If a member of the public supports you and you like the person, that person is free to say pretty much whatever he or she chooses. In contrast, if a member of the public does not openly support you, you have made it clear that attacks on that person are not a problem. You, Mayor, have said on a number of occasions that you want people to be kind to one another and to be civil in discussions. You regularly violate these intentions, and your behavior incites emotional responses in both those who support you and those who at times are critical of you. If you, Mayor, truly believe in kindness and civility, I urge you to apply the rules and procedures that were adopted by this board fairly and uniformly. Thank you. And I'll give a copy of my statement to the village clerk and ask that it be attached to the minutes of this meeting. Thank you.
Next. Arthur?
Martha Igelucci, 9 Russell Street. I was going to say a lot more, but Mike has basically said everything that I was going to say. I would just like to say this. I sincerely hope that all of you never have to hear a child of yours smeared the way Jared was at that meeting without the appropriate response from the person who should be showing leadership.
Try living it sometime yourself.
Oh, Mr.
That was
Mayor,
not a
that's out of
problem.
line as well.
That's out of line.
Goodness.
Try living it yourself. I'm not gonna stop on that. No, Liz, seriously. Next up.
All right, I've got Nathan Ward.
Yep.
Hi, Nathan Ward, One Hyde Boulevard. I would like to thank the board for coordinating the monster truck rally around the movies in the park. Also, on your parking code, the BSBPA is a pretty big stakeholder in that code, and we actually talked about that at our retreat this couple months ago, and that the parking are in Ballston Spa kind of is a problem in the businesses will benefit from improving the parking situation in the village. And thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Next.
All right, Keith Lewis.
Yep.
Keith Lewis, 38 East High Street, Ballston Spa. I emailed someone familiar with New York State labor law. In New York, they responded. In New York State, there is no specific law that requires employers to allow employees to cash out their vacation time while continuing to work. The decision to cash out vacation time while still employed is typically at the discretion of the employer and may be guided by the company's policies, employment contracts, or collective bargaining agreements. If an employee wishes to cash out vacation time while still working and there is no approved policy, they should discuss their request with their employer to see if any arrangements can be made. Ultimately, the decision to allow or deny such a request rests with the employer unless specified otherwise in an employment agreement or policy. Employers in New York State are required to comply with state labor laws and regulations regarding payment of earned wages, including accrued vacation time. If there is no policy or agreement specifying the forfeiture of accrued vacation time upon termination, the employer should pay the employee for the unused vacation time as part of their final check. It's unfortunate that some trustees would misrepresent facts to compel a desired outcome, and the mayor would push an agenda without competent legal counsel. Our residents expect sound policies and truthful representation. It's especially telling that you, Frank, a licensed attorney, would ask Mary, the wife of our chief of police, to deliver this untruth, and disappointing that Carla would not correct the falsity. Lastly, you are selective about your enforcement of public comment time constraints, especially when you cut into that time with questions. We are still entitled to free speech, regardless of whether or not you actually uphold it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on Zoom? Anybody else in the room? Right.
Ray Otten, 16 Middlebrook Ave. I have, in the past month or so, been working with Cape Van Buren up on the Triangle area. What we're trying to do is put perennials in there so that we don't every year have to go back and replant and replant and replant. I was able to convince Rotary to donate money, and I found out that that is an adopt-a-plot, which I also asked about how many adopt-a-plots we have in this village, and I was told about 12. They include the big monument down on the end of Low Street. They include the planters that are down in Kelly Park. They include a planting area over in the public parking lot. I think we depend a lot on donations and volunteers to do a lot of the beautification in this village, and I think we need to look a little bit differently at that. With the money that we've gotten through Rotary and through the Business Association, we are not going to be able to do as much as we would like. And I would like to put in a request for a $250 investment by this village in making that a more beautiful entrance to the village. And I put it out to all of you. I don't know where it could come from because I've been told, well, go to the Park and Tree Committee, and they said no. I solicited to get perennial plants from the Garden Club because I know they every year have a perennial sale. Nothing donated. I did get Agway to basically donate at their cost as many plants as we want. So the money is going to be well spent. There is a huge markup on plants. So we're able to get it at between $6 and $8 per plant for perennial plants. They're going to give us up to 50 plants, 60 plants, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I need some more money to make that a permanent beautification project, and I don't know how to get it.
So you need 250, you said?
I need 250,
I'll give you the
and then it
250.
will be,
I will give you the 250.
then it will be year round, not year round, but from spring until fall with perennial plants, tulips, daffodils, all that.
It's yours. So,
Okay,
move it.
that's what I was looking for.
Follow up with me, okay?
All right, and the last thing I want to talk about is if we were talking about Jeff Gawry's or Scott.
You only have 15 seconds left,
Or,
just so you
that's
know.
fine, Scott or Glenn Bowers or anybody else wanting to get their payout of time, I don't think there would be as much question about it as there was with Terry. And any company I've ever worked for, you were always able to get your time. It's your time. Thank you.
Your time. Anybody else? You.
Move to side, no worries.
Gina Morosi, Kennel Glory Lane. Just something for everyone to put on their calendars. On Thursday, May 23rd at 4 o'clock, Terry, 4 o'clock?
4 to 9.
4 to 9, thank you. A few of us got together in conjunction with the Speckled Pig, and we're doing a fundraiser for the Rask family. There's going to be basket raffles contributed from several people in the community, a 50-50 bracelet sales. I've been told not to use that word. Bracelets will be available for donation. And $1 from everything purchased that night and during those times will be contributed by the Speckled Pig. So I urge everybody to participate, to stop by, get a pizza. It'll be a no cook Thursday. That's my favorite. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
I wanted to add one thing, which is ironic, and you're killing me for doing this, but Carla actually has connection, believe it or not, to the Rask family because her son, Chris, goes for Fredonia with Emma and actually has been in shows with her as well. And so you want to talk about small world and hitting home in so many different ways. I saw Chris was actually one of the donors, early donors on the GoFundMe. So I had the right one at that point. So it's a small world indeed, and how, you know, lives touch other lives around this area. It's amazing.
Does that mean you're coming to the Speckled Pig?
I just
Thursday?
texted him. He'll be home next week. So.
Very good.
Finally, actually.
Very good. Also related to that, I just, on a personal note, need to send our thanks and appreciation out to the firefighters that night. That I saw some video from that fire. It was knocked down tremendously fast. It was well on its way when they got there and they took it out immediately. It was amazing to watch. So I just want to extend our thanks and appreciation. I'm glad everybody's safe, including our firefighters. Of course, I'm partial because I'm married to one.
But yeah, the whole night, and then everything following was just amazing. It does take a village, and this village has stepped up in so many ways, and I'm very proud. So hope to see everybody on the 23rd, and that's all I have.
And they found the cat.
And
Yes,
they
they
found
did.
the cat.
Yeah.
All three
That was
cats.
miraculous. isn't it?
Under a bed.
Yeah.
My most liked post in history on Facebook was the finding of the cat, believe it or not. So, hey, why not? So, yeah, I'm thrilled. And actually, as I said in Facebook, yeah, brought closure to that family because that was the one missing member of the family that was found. And so that I think helped them turn a certain corner mentally on the whole thing. So it was important. I think that's it. And so, well, though there is a hand up on there, as I look around.
Caitlin, you wanna?
Yeah, go for it, sure. Caitlin, go ahead.
Hi, Caitlin Parwan, 86 South Street. I just wanted to specify on one thing that Ray said. He did reach out to the Park and Tree Board regarding that space of land for perennial purchases. And we did not deny anyone money for that particular area of land. All we said was that it was an adopt-a-plot area, and so that is where the village money is being budgeted for that, so that we were not, you know, the people to go to for that. And I sent him in the adopt-a-plot direction. Just wanted to specify that we didn't say no to anyone because it's not a park or a tree and it's kind of not our thing. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, it's covered now either way. So if the top plot has it, let me know, but otherwise, you know where to follow up. Right. I think we're at the point of this other business included but not limited to board response to public comment.
I would just say to Ray that the difference between the DPW workers and this is there's a contract in place, so therefore an official policy in place and was in place when they got their cash out.
Jeff's not under
That's the
contract.
difference.
Sean, Jeff's not under contract.
What's that?
Jeff's not under contract. You brought Jeff.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. The DPW workers who are under contract, who got a payout, are under contract, and there is a policy within the contract to pay out vacation. That's the difference.
Thank you. Anybody else?
One question I had was, I know we changed a piece of the sidewalk law. There's other pieces that need changing.
Yeah,
I'm talking about doing that, but
Yeah.
also, I'm not sure, did we ever vote to update the?
No, we did not. And
the
so
schedule, right?
I was gonna put it on this, but I felt like I needed to talk with Carla more deeply about how we're gonna effectuate it. So that will be next meeting, actually. We ran out of time with all the stuff that was going on for this one to get it into
All
place.
right,
So
so
we'll
we're
get it
gonna
for the next 2 weeks from now.
update the schedule. And one request I had is that we, I think we agree on the change to the schedule, but for the most part, one thing is.
Well, actually, I think one thing to think about is the limit. I think we were talking about 50% up to blank per property over a certain year period. And so fill in the blanks on those two things, because that was the other part that I couldn't just put a 50% thing out there. I needed some more guidance before we have the right numbers there. So,
All right, so we'll see
provide some
something from writing.
Well, provide
before next meeting.
feedback, on those blanks is what I'm saying to you. The dollar limit and the time limit before you could do it again on the same sidewalk.
Right, so that would be the life of the sidewalk.
Well, that's the question. So
Okay.
email,
Right.
we'll get to it, but it's the question, I can't answer those questions for the board. That's the board has to give us guidance there.
The other piece that I'd like deleted from the schedule is it does say that DPW will take away sidewalk debris at no cost, which in theory could like incentivize someone to take out their sidewalks since we don't have a prohibition against that. And plus they have enough other stuff to do. So
It's in the code currently though, right?
it's in the schedule. It's in the schedule.
No, we don't have a schedule currently. It's in the code.
No,
It's
yeah,
in the
it's
code.
just-
It's in the code, yeah.
Wait, what would there's some separate piece of paper that has that.
And it probably is inadvertently added to a schedule that shouldn't have existed as it was, but it was probably consistent with what the code.
All right, let me find what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of. I have it on my
Yeah, show it to me so
phone.
you can take care of it. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's
I had no
right.
idea.
But that was, anyway, something caught my eye. It was like, I think we should fix it.
Mary, you still there with us? Anything on your end?
No, I'm good.
And for that is good. So am I. We're gonna go to executive session. Mary, if you can turn off the camera and mute, and we'll call you for executive session. We'll do it that way. Is that okay?
Sure.
So can I get a motion for executive session to discuss potential litigation and a labor contract matter? And there will likely be action taken after this executive session. Trustee Fandesa.
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Right.